America of ours is a land richly endowed, a land of great distances, of fertile, bountifully productive farmlands, of forests vast beyond comprehension, of mineral resources, their extent yet unmeasured, of nature's strength harnessed to enrich the power of the land. This America of ours is a nation of mighty industry, where is created an endless profusion of goods to the measure of mankind's highest standard of living. This America of ours is a land where men produce more and live better and enjoy more freedoms than men have ever before known. Today, this land of ours is in graver danger than ever before in its history. Standing guard against any threat to the national security are the nation's combat forces. On land, a superbly trained, equipped, and expanding army, sworn to the preservation of peace, but prepared to strike back should that peace be in danger. On the seas, the world's most powerful, far-reaching navy, massive in its size, mighty in its striking power, in the officers and the men who make that striking power effective. The United States Marines, the Fighting Leathernecks, proud symbol of America's determination to remain free. In the air, a force whose record of achievement has made it a living legend in the annals of air power, expanding with an atomic age. These are the front lines of America's defenses. Their strength is our margin of security. But the strength of any combat force is only a potential in the language of military science. The very essence of modern defense is production and transportation. Throughout the nation today can be heard the growing assurance that the tremendous demands of a far-reaching defense program will be met. On the railroads, in mills and widespread factories, millions of workers combine with modern machinery and methods to form the most powerful resource any nation has ever created, the might of American mass production. In the steady stream of raw materials from distant ports and domestic deposits, in the increasing flow of goods from production lines, lies the world's great promise for peace and security. Let no nation fail to appreciate fully the true force of productive capacity in the hands of a free and determined people. Even as this nation, with all its richness of resources, depends upon its organized capacity to produce, so does that capacity depend on transportation. For no nation can have more of anything than can be moved from field and forest, from mine and mill, from producer to consumer. And in all this movement, the railroad stands foremost and most essential. In national defense, as in peacetime commerce, the country's national resources are made usable. Its productive strength is made real and effective by the flanged wheel on the steel rail, moving more tons of freight, more miles, than all other forms of transport combined. Today, once again, the railroads are called upon to shoulder the tremendous transportation responsibility of a wartime economy, at the same time meeting continuing home front requirements. This is an undertaking only railroads can perform, for only railroads have the carrying capacity and the operating economy to handle such a tremendous task. This is a job that begins far from the lathes and the mills, deep down under the earth, where men go searching for the materials and fuel to maintain our home economy and from which to pattern the shape of our defenses. It begins on the farms, where are grown the products and produce in variety and volume to feed the nation and to share with the lives. It begins in the small villages, and in the larger towns, and in the great cities, all alive and alert to the problems of a world torn with unrest and confusion. It begins, of course, with the people. People by the millions, from Maine to California. From borders north to south, every day, every night. People who in all kinds of weather look to efficient, low-cost rail transportation as an integral part of everyday living. People who have learned to depend upon the speed, safety, and comforts that only 20th century railroading can provide. From raw materials through every stage of manufacture and delivery, the things everyday America and the National Defense Program need in uninterrupted flow are assembled and distributed by the world's biggest assembly line, the railroads. They are the arteries that move and feed and help keep the nation alive and strong in times of peace and in times of crisis. In facing up to the demands of national defense, the railroads have a precedent of service as a guide to action, a proud record of achievement in a similar period of crisis. During World War II, they carried more than 90% of all military freight and 97% of all organized military travel. In spite of drastic demands on equipment and manpower, it can be said, and proudly so, that nowhere in all the world at any time was the war effort lessened or its striking power diminished by reason of any failure of rail transportation here at home. These are times when our country is once again faced with threats to those freedoms for which so many have already sacrificed. Not yet has a decade passed, and again the manpower of the nation must be mobilized in preparation for the common defense. Induction centers greet the youth of the nation. Training camps have been reactivated and enlarged. The country's manpower is being trained to meet any threat to the national security. The American railroads are alert to the pressing needs of the times, for without adequate railroad transportation, there could be no effective rearmament program. The civilian economy is supplied with food to eat, clothes to wear, fuel to burn. Meanwhile, the American railroads find the added equipment and personnel necessary to strengthen the defenses of the nation. From citizen to soldier to camp, and then on to ports of embarkation, armed forces personnel move by rail. Logistical planning becomes real and effective only through the proper functioning of rail transportation. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the flanged wheel must be kept rolling. From factories to training camps, and then right down to the docks, railroads haul the tanks and the guns and the munitions to be loaded aboard freighters for shipment to allies and to strengthen distant defense lines. Railroad transportation is equally as essential as any other part of the business of supplying the steadily increasing demands of the National Defense Program. Trained personnel is delivered to embarkation areas without disrupting and almost unnoticed by the civilian economy. The picture once again is one of grim reality as men file up the gangplanks of waiting transports. Then, with last-minute goodbyes, another ship is ready to sail out to strengthen the world's fight for freedom. Once again, America's might must prepare for war, even as we work and hope for peace. These, then, are the defenses upon which our very existence as a free and independent democratic nation might well depend. A far-reaching rearmament program encompassing every resource, every creative effort, every ounce of manpower we possess, all made effective through the unending efforts of America's free enterprising system of mass transportation. Railroads have pioneered and contributed mightily to the development of the vast American sea. They have spanned and united a great nation over more than a century of unparalleled progress. They have figured importantly in a past that has been a truly great formative period, wherein great men joined with destiny to create a heritage for those of us now present to cherish and to protect. As we look forward to the future, a future of continuing civilian requirements and an expanding national defense program, let us keep ever alive our faith in our heritage, in ourselves, in our way of life. The pattern of events in the times ahead may be clothed in doubt and uncertainty. But come what may, America stands well fortified in every facet of continuing preparation, including the very crux of national defense, the vital factor of mobility, of raw materials, finished products, of men and munitions. As the National Defense Program continues to roll ever forward, the railroads can be depended upon to devote even more energy to the prime task of keeping this nation strong, to keep America and all mankind forever free.